Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am your host Sumit and I am again back after so many days with another Blender beginners tutorial regarding Blender 2.9, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to create this beautiful fantasy island in Blender from scratch. Now the following tutorial, it contains modeling, arranging the scene, UV unwrapping, texturing, particle settings, sculpting, and even rendering, and as a bonus tip, even a Photoshop composition. So this video is all about Blender beginners, and considering the fact that you guys have little to no idea regarding Blender, I have tried to explain each and everything, and this video is long enough because this one is a real-time video. So I hope you guys like it, and as a bonus content I have also put the file in the description below the video where you can download the file and you can fiddle with the scene. So yeah, without any much further ado, let's jump into Blender and let's get started, create that fantasy land from scratch in Blender. Now the first thing that I will be doing is to get rid of all these default objects from my scene and add a plane, mesh plane, and now I will scale it to around 10 times. So now as you can see, it's 20 meters of length, and apply the scale for this. And now I will be using a couple of modifiers for this 3D plane. The first modifier will be the Subsurface Modifier, subdivision surface. Now the shortcut keys of using the Subsurface Modifier is Control and then the number of iteration you want. You just have to put down the number. So I will be using Control 4 to apply 4 level of subdivision, and then I will apply it. So as you can see, it has got a very good edge loops. And why did I do this? I just want to clarify you that I generally work with quad topology. So if I am using this, as you can see, when I am introducing a loop cut, there is no problem whatsoever. There's no problem in creating a loop cut, or even if you are sculpting, you won't get any kind of problem, because everything is now in quads instead of triangles and other incons. Anyways, so the second modifier that I'll be using for this mesh is Solidify modifier, and then I will give a little bit of a thickness, maybe 0.85 will be good enough. Yeah, yes, 0.85, and then I will again apply the modifiers. And since it has got now its thickness and it is round, it's now time to make it denser. So right click and subdivide it a couple of times until the mesh looks like this, pretty much dense. Now why so dense mesh? Because I will be using a displacement modifier now, and in order to in order to work displacement better, we need to have a better more geometry inside an object. So the guidance for the texture of the displacement modifier, I'll be using procedural clouds, and you can see it's started to look something like this, but I will increase the size of the clouds a little bit, 1.4. yeah, it's good. And then again I will go back to my displacement modifier and decrease the strength of the modifier a little bit. 0.4 is good enough, and in order to create this kind of rugged surface. And once I'm happy with it, I will again apply. So this is my base model for the land, and I will duplicate it, Shift D to duplicate it and keep it hidden from now on, because I will be using the same structure to create the the bottom part of the land. So this is the upper part of the land. So what I'll be doing over here now, I will go to my sculpting tab and do a little bit of a sculpting on this area in order to create that kind of plateau kind of look. So anyways, the main brush that I'll be using over here, it's not that kind of hard, it's actually Sculpt Draw. I'll be using the basic sculpting tool to sculpt the landmarks. The second one will be the Smooth Modifier. Now the shortcut key is holding down Shift and then S, and then you can do this smoothness. And the third one that I'll be using is the grab brush, this one, yeah, the grab brush. The shortcut key is G. So I'll be using these three brushes only in order to create that landmass. So now what I'll be doing, I will be creating some some bumps all around this top layer, but since we have seen that it's actually affecting a very little space, so I will increase the radius of my brush. The shortcut key is F, and then you hover your mouse and make it larger or smaller, and then once you're happy with it, you just left click and it's done. And there is also another settings of strength. You can also increase the strength with this slider. Shortcut key is Shift F. It gives you the strength. You see right now it's in 0.4, that means 40% of the strength, and if I'm going to 100% of the strength, it's going all the way up to 1. So let's go back to the default values and increase the radius a little bit, and now let's do a little bit of a sculpting on the top layer. And just left click, and you just hold down the left click and you hover your mouse up or down wherever you want, and it will give you the exact thing that you want. Okay, like that. I won't be bothering much about the sculpting process in here, because since it's not that advanced, any one of you can do it easily. It's not a big deal. You just click and do whatever you like or however you want your land to be, and once you're happy, you just go ahead and Shift S for the smooth brush, and I will decrease the strength for the smooth brush in here to about 0.35 or 35%, and then I will smooth it very slowly so that it will all these the rough edges is actually becoming smoother, because nothing in this world is 100% pointy like this one. And I will also do a little bit of a smoothing here. And now the shortcut key X to bring out my Sculpt Draw. I will decrease the radius, and I will do a manual bump here and there. And if you want to decrease the value or go to the negative form, all you have to do is hold down Control and then you just draw it. It will go into the eraser or decrease mode. So I will just make a little bit of a decreasing here and there, and where I need, I will just add some more bumpness to it, and I can also smooth that part. You can also hold down Shift and then just move your brush. It will also do the trick for smoothing to you. Anyways, I will also add some more definitions here. Okay, let me bring back my duplicate version of this plane and let me see how it's interacting. Some of the areas are actually needed to, you know, get a more bump here, and I will do the correction. You see, it's not that, you know, that kind of a hard job. It's not like you're sculpting a character or something like that. You do however you want. That's totally random, because one thing that we can always get away with creating the landmass is actually whenever we are creating stones or mountains, they are all random every time you are creating, so we can always get away with no matter how creepy we are actually creating them or how shitty it's looking like. It doesn't count for creating the landforms because they are always, you know, random. So this is the top layer. I will quickly rename them as the top layer, and I will now select this plane, and then I cannot sculpt it. So one thing that I have noticed, I don't know, you can tell me in the comment section if you want, but I haven't found out a way to, you know, multiple select some objects. Like in ZBrush we can always go and select an object and we can sculpt on them right away, but I haven't found out one in Blender right now. I haven't found it out yet. So in order to sculpt that, you will have to go, I've seen that you will have to go on back to the layout, select the object again, and then go back to sculpting in order to sculpt that portion. So if you guys can find a way of doing, you know, selecting the multiple options, it will be much better for me, because I'm a newbie in, you know, Blender sculpting. I'm not that good in Blender sculpting. So you can always give me, you know, feedbacks on in the comment section. You can say that. It will be very, very much helpful for me, you know. So anyways, going back to the bottom layer, now I will be doing the same thing for the bottom as well, but right now I will at first go to ZBrush and increase radius, and then instead of, you know, pulling down like this, which actually don't work sometimes, what I will be doing is I will go to the bottom view by selecting Control and then number pad 7 to go to the bottom view, and then Control and then drag it to right hand side. You know, sideways will give you this kind of, you can, whenever you are you know, dragging your brush, it will go sideways, but if you are holding down Control and then you are, you know, doing like this, it will give you, ooh, that's weird. It can give you top and bottom, you know, movement. So oopsie daisy, yeah, something like that. And now once I'm done with it, now I will drag the rest of the part like this, keeping in mind that there will be multiple rock-like structures for this layout, for this, you know, lower half of this island, or, you know, the landmass, and I will drag them like this, creating totally random things. Once again, you can create any things while you're creating landforms. It always get away, you can always get away with it, because creating landforms or, you know, sculpting landforms is actually pretty easy task, but keep that in mind, you are actually going for a beginner's level. Once you are going to, you know, the advanced level, the task became much harder. Let me see what I can do over here. Some little tweakings. Let me decrease the radius and give it a little bit of a jagged, or, you know, jagged look even more. Drag him down, drag these things down, this thing up, now hiding this rough edge underneath the top layer so that it will be, you know, perfectly hidden. Okay, some more and then I'm done. I don't want to make this video, you know, too big, just a couple of basic learnings and nothing else. Okay, and I will again go back to the top layer and do a little bit of a sculpting in here. As you can see, we need to hide this geometry, so let me just sculpt on top of it, and as well as the bottom. And let me smooth the things, everything out. Yeah, and now I will decrease the radius of my brush, go to G and give a little bit of randomness, you know, random edge like this. And here we go. Still a little bit of a notch is left. So this is the land, and I will rename this one as bottom layer. Bottom layer, sorry. And now that's the land. Now, right before before proceeding any further, I will like to go ahead and add the camera for this scene. And you know, the camera is always, every time you put an object, it always snaps to the position where your 3D cursor is there. So right now the camera, you cannot see it, but once I go into the wireframe, you see the camera just under this huge blob. Now, in order to, you know, align the view of your camera, align your camera to the view that you are actually looking at, you can always go ahead and put down the shortcut key Control Alt and 0. It will snap your camera out of the position where it was originally and align it to the view that you were actually on it. So now I will go now to this view tab, and for my aid I will click on this one, lock to object, that's camera to view. Now when I'm right clicking or, you know, middle clicking, I can, you know, pan, zoom, I can also rotate my screen, but that will be underneath the lens, you know, the lens of the camera. So I don't, everything will be aligned according to my camera view. Okay, and I will place the camera where I would like, and as my camera is already selected, now it's time to change the perspective of the camera. The first thing I will like to change is the focal length. 50 meter is actually not good for, you know, wide angle shot. It's more like 19 is good. And then I will drag my screen, zoom in, get a zoom in, and let me see what's the better view of this, of the landmass that I have created. Okay, yeah, I think this one is looking good. Yeah, this one, and that's the lock to the camera. And here we go. So that's my land and that's the camera, and it's now time to create the house and the other parts of this scene. Okay, so now before creating the house, I will just hide everything from now on, and excuse me, and create another plane here. For the plane, I will not go for a perfect square, so I will go to this item selection and then increase the dimension of Y or X. I think I will go for X and increase this to 6, 3 times, and then I will apply the scale to it. So now it's more like a rectangle. Now then I will go to the edit mode and extrude them till I think here. Yes, I think I need to increase the size of scaling to the y-axis a little bit. Okay, let me apply the scale once again. Okay, like this. And then what I will be doing in order to create that top roof, I will introduce a loop cut, and by selecting this top edge, I will hit G and then Z to lock the movement to Z axis only. I will hover my mouse up until I am satisfied with the shape, and here it is. It's starting to look like a house, isn't it? Now in order to create that curved area, I will introduce some more loop cuts, but before doing that, let me undo that and quickly introduce 3 different loop cuts, or let's at first try with 1 loop cut, and then I will scale it down according to the normals. So I will select this edge and this edge and scale it onto the y-axis, something like this, so that it looks something like that. Okay, yeah, something like that. And then I will be selecting all these faces or all this edge loop and introduce a bevel bevel editing in this edge loop. So Control B gives you a bevel edge, and you hover your mouse, you just drag your mouse without clicking anywhere, and you can just increase the length of the bevel. Now it's not looking that much, but once you scroll your mouse wheel up, you will see the more you scroll your mouse wheel up, the more edge loop is actually introduced, and then it kind of looks like interesting. The more edge loops you create, the more smoother transition of this bevel take place. Let's see, and it's looking quite nice than it was before. Yeah, and like that. Yeah, so it's not bad, isn't it? And now after doing this, I will select this top edge and hit GZ to make it something like this. Okay, and this one is looking rather nice. Great. Anyways, and now for the top, I will work on the roof a little bit more to create that kind of slope once again. So I can go ahead and add some more edge loops like this, but I won't be bothering much about it right now. At first I will be introducing one more bevel to it, to the top part, and I won't go for that much geometry. So I will take this, and then I will go to the face selection and select these 3 top faces. And here is another trick. You hit Alt E and you then select extrude faces along normals. This gives you something to do like this. Generally when we extrude something, we just extrude on one face or one direction, which is good but not that kind of good, but when we are doing Alt E Alt E, we have actually, the option of extrude individual faces, extrude manifold, and some other extrusion features. For this one, we will be using this extrude face along normals. So you just drag your mouse without clicking anywhere, and once you are satisfied, you just left click and leave it there. And once it's done, it's now time to select this one as well, and the same thing, Alt E to extrude along normals, and you can give it more shape, defined shape like this. So from the object view, it looks like this. Okay, now for the, I remember now, I will add some more parts to this area. Before doing that, let me remember how many loop cuts am I using. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loop cuts. So same thing goes for here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because I'm a forgetful guy, I always tend to forget everything. And now I will be using some more loop cuts like this, and it's done. No, not good enough. Okay, so after doing this, now it's time to create some floors. Actually, I'll be not bothering much about creating multiple floors. So what I'll be doing over here is I will select this one, hit SZ to align them properly, and hit again Control B to add some Bevel Modifier, hit Alt E to extrude the face along the normals, make something like this, and the same thing goes for this area as well. Now before going, I think I did a little bit of mistake right there. Let me just double grab it and grab it over here, and then add some bevel. Alt E to extrude the face along the normals, and voila. Now I will select this face and drag it even more by hitting G and Y, because this will be used as a balcony for the upper floor, and like this. Okay, like that. And then I will be adding some windows here, but before adding the windows, let me align this line properly. SZ to align them properly. I will also have to align here as well, and this one as well. Okay, so now it's time to create the windows for this area. Now to create the window, you can select this area. I will be selecting this edge, and instead of cutting or doing some weird stuff, I can also always go for Control B to again add a bevel, do something like this, and then select this face and scale it according to the y-axis and make it even more wider, and thus a window is created. Now another important tips is you can insert this, you can create an insert value for this face. The shortcut key is I to create an insert. Now what does an insert do? It actually make something like this, pretty pretty much useful, huh? And then with the face mode selected, I will hold down Alt and click between these two edges in order to select this entire face loop, and hit Alt E to extrude face along normals and extrude it like this, and this looks perfect. Admit it looks perfect. You can go ahead and do this kind of inset value anywhere you like. I would like to add another window over here as well. Wait, let me bring it a little bit down. Another helpful tips: if you are selecting an edge loop by holding Alt, then left clicking an edge, you can select an entire edge loop. If you hit G, you can grab the edge loop, but you can see that it's actually messing up with the structure of your mesh. But once you select them, if you are hitting G twice, you can now move along that edge flow of your mesh, so there isn't any risk of deforming your mesh entirely. So I will like to keep this edge loop a little bit downward as it was right here. I will double click G and then bring it downward just in here, and then select this edge again, hit Control B to add the bevel, and then again select this face, and obviously it's already aligned properly, so I will add inset by hitting I and creating an inset value around like this, and then again selecting this entire face loop by hitting Alt and then clicking in between these these two edges. On this edge I can select the entire face loop, Alt E to extrude faces along normals, and make another window. So that's how you easily create a house. You don't have to cut through anything, and if you want, you can always go and delete this face and delete faces, and you will have something like this. But I don't bother deleting any faces at all, because if I am going for a texturing, I can easily create some glass shader for this area and create some glass effect. So now for the house, it's actually done now, but still my work is not finished yet, so I will have to create a balcony because it's not looking too good right now, is it? So now for the balcony, I will again go and go to the edit mode and add a cube for the scene. Now since it's actually underneath, and if you have another tip, if you have by mistake you are in edit mode and if I have clicked away without moving this object, now you can see that you cannot select this object entirely. No matter what you do, you cannot select this model entirely. All you have to do is hover your mouse to the object that you need to be selected, just hit L and it will select that object for you, and then I will scale it down. For this better view, I will be using wireframe mode, so Z and go into wireframe. I will decrease the size even more and place it right on this area, and bring it somewhere like this. Okay, and going back to the solid mode, still it's not that good. Now it's perfect. GZ to align it along with the surface, GY to align it properly, and then from the top view I will place it to X and place it right about there. Okay, now I will select the top face, hit GZ and make something like this. This looks like a railing. And again hit L, Shift D to duplicate it, hit a G, then Y, and I will place it right here. And again by holding down L, I can select both of them, and again Shift D to duplicate and hit G, then X to bring it on the opposite side. You can use array modifier. You in order to do that, all you have to do is bring separate mesh, but I don't bother doing that much because it's not that advanced tutorial. So hit L and Shift D, duplicate, G, X to bring it something like GX and 1, hit enter, so it will be perfectly aligned, or something like GX 0.75, 75% of the distance. Same thing, hit duplicate, GX 0.75, duplicate, GX 0.75 and so on, duplicate, GX 0.75. Or you can also do something like this, hit L again, duplicate, GX 0.75 means 1.5, and that's perfectly aligned. It's all about maths, which I always do fail. GX 0.75. Perfect. Now all we need to do is create the top of this railing. So in order to do that, just duplicate any one of them. I will be selecting this one, hit L and duplicate and rotate it along the y-axis to about 90 degree, and then bring it up a little bit, somewhere like this. I will need a better view. Hit G, X, align it with this area, and then select this face, hit G, X and move it along until you are meeting this bar, this railing. Yeah, same thing for this one. You can hit L, duplicate, rotate, for this time it's X 90 degree, and 3, hit G, Z, make it somewhere like this, G, Y, and then select this, G, Y, and mix them together. You can also, it's not aligned properly, so I will just bring it down a little bit. Same thing, duplicate, G, X, bring it right about there, G, X, and don't worry, I won't be worrying about this this part, because this house will be too much far away from us. And then I will select this one and this one, G, Y, bring it a little bit closer, duplicate, G, Y, make it something like this. Cool, isn't it? Now it's time to create the door. Now how to create the door? You can go ahead and increase one loop cut, but that will increase your geometry drastically, so I don't bother much about this. What I do is I use the knife tool. The shortcut key for the knife tool is K. So K brings out the knife tool. You just have to click on any edge anywhere. So I will click on here, and then all you have to do is drag your mouse where you want your another insertion will be, and then left click once again, and then hit enter to create one edge. I won't be worrying about this, you know that the edge is not straight, but I won't be worrying because I can easily scale it. I can easily make it a line by hitting S and then X, and it will be a straight line. Now once I'm happy with it, I will hit Ctrl B to add another bevel, and this time like this. And yeah, I've discovered another process. You can always go and add another intersecting lines by using the knife tool. So let me scale it like this and bring it upward, something like that. Isn't it dandy? And select them. If you are insetting it, it will act something like this, and then go to the face loop and Alt E to add another extrude along the normals and make the doorway like that. Okay, so that's it for the door. And now it's time to add some variations in this building, because it's not looking quite good. So I'll be selecting these edges, and yeah, these edges as well, this and this, and then Control B to add some more bevel, hit Alt S to scale according to the normal as well, and now it looks like this. And this one is looking much better than it was before. Okay, yeah, okay. So now I will be adding some more buildings for this area. So again, hit mesh and then cube. Now this time I will bring it up, I will align it to the floor, and then bring it proceed further like this, and scale it according to the x-axis until it meets something like that. And then I will go to the, let me at first apply the scalings, and then I will go to the edit mode, and while I am in the edge mode, I will select this edge, bring it down a little bit, something like this, and I will select this edge, bring it up, something like this, and I can also even bring it further, something like that. Yeah. And then what I can do, let me just bring it upward a little bit more, something like that, and I will introduce one loop cut, select this edge, hit G, Z to make it down, something like that, and then hit Control B to add some bevel to make a smoother transition like that one. And then the same things, same process, go into the face selection and select these faces and hit Alt E to extrude face along the normals, something like this, and then again this area, and Alt E to face or extrude along the normals and make something like that. Cool, isn't it? Let me hide this one and let me get rid of this area because I don't need an extra, or you know, leave it here because I don't see that it will be visible enough. So the same thing, I will be doing the same thing for the other side as well. So scale, and for this time I will be also applying the rotation, and sorry, not the rotation but the location. So the origin, the view origin is actually based on over here. Now if I am adding a mirror modifier, it will be perfectly mirrored along with the x-axis. Now we cannot see it because it's actually overlapping with each other. So instead of x-axis, I will go to y-axis and see. Now it's actually looking rather nice. And now let me just scale these areas a little bit down. Yeah, something like that. You know, I can scale this area to Y, and here we go. You can also scale according to Z axis to make it something like this, and scale it according to Y X to make it something like that. Perfect. Perfect for this kind of a house. Okay, I must admit, I must you know, get rid of this and make it a little bit wider according to x-axis. Let's bring it further like that, and let's select all these faces. Because I seriously don't like some house whose roof is like that. Okay, scale it according to x-axis and make it something like that. Okay, now since we are done with this area, I will be modeling some. Let me apply it. Okay, I will be now modeling the door. So for the door, I will select this and bring it up to be around this area. Select this edge, Control B. You know, I can also do something like that. Wait, let me just okay, before applying the mirror modifier, I will be doing a little bit of a tweaking over here, because you know the bevel modifier has actually been affected like this. So G, Z, and bring it upward, and you know what, it's done. So now let's apply the mirror modifier, and okay, so I will be creating, I will be again using the knife tool to cut along this edge, something like that. Okay, select this edge flow and select scale it according to Z axis to make it much straight line. It's Y, yeah. And double click and bring it up, something like this. Scale Z to make it a straight line once again. Okay, now I will hit Control B and decrease the amount of the loop cuts. Alt E to extrude face along normals, make something like this, and select this area. Alt B. Oops, I again did the same mistake. See? Alt B, yeah. And then Alt B, make a door, select this face and hit Alt E to clone something like that. Okay, sorry, I to create something like this, and then select all this area. Just leave this, Alt E to extrude face along normals, make something like that. So it's a door. Guess what? It's a door. Yeah. And let me see how does it look when I'm rendering it out. Let me go to cycles and give it a white color. And this does not look too bad, is it? Oh, it's not bad. It's good. It's good. Okay, so that's the the basic modeling of the house. Now one thing again I will be doing is select these edges one after the other. So I'll be selecting this one, then this one, and then this one. Similar thing. Okay, what one? Okay, like this one, and this one, and hit Control B to make it a beveled edge, S to make something like this. And you can also scale it something like that, and this does not look bad at all. It's not worse. I've seen worse, I've made worse things. Now another part of the building is left is I will be adding a cylinder this time. Now instead of the capfill ingon is quite good, it's not bad at all. Let me go to the edit mode, GZ1. Why do I do this? I always like to place the point of origin to the bottom, so that no matter how large it is, it always gets stuck in the bottom of the plane. Let me bring it forward until it meets something like that, and GY something like that, and let me decrease the size of it a little bit, maybe like that. Okay, or even more, we can also use something like this. But let me grab X, 1 Z for the wireframe, go to the edit mode and select this half and delete them, delete the vertices, so it's looking like that. Now I can go ahead and select these to edges, G, X, and make it something like that. And I will place it over here, scale it something like that, and place it over here. Now for the top part, I will be using the same pattern over here, but a little bit of a change in the plan. I will select this edge and then hit E to extrude it upward, something around like this, and hit F and hit G to make it something like that. Okay, and then I will select these faces, hit Alt E to extrude faces along the normals again, something like that. And here we go. Not that much, yeah, something like that. And now it's time to align them properly. G, Z, okay, it's not working again. Oh, you know what, I can also decrease the size if I want. Yeah, and then I will select this one and GZ to make something like this. Yeah, like that. Okay, and for more aid, I can use a loop cut in here, a loop cut in here, and a loop cut in here. You can also increase the scale and use some bevel modifier. You know what, let's leave it, it's already looking like a shit. And I will add some loop cuts here and there to create a window. 1, 2, 3. This one will look perfectly like a window. Now what I will be doing is, instead of adding an inset and make it something like that, I know what I can get away with it. So insert I, and then again selecting this face loop, hit Alt E, extrude face along the normals, and make something like that. Yeah, something like that. So that's the house part that we did, and some more structures can be done in here. So I can go ahead and add some more variations in this scene by just adding some more structures like this here and there. GY, making more random stuff. I can also add something like this. You know what, it's already taking too longer, so I won't be bothering much about it. So that's the house. I will join them together, G to join, and I will rename it as the house. So I think my caps lock is on. Yeah. So that's the top layer, the bottom layer, and the house. So now it's time to properly align the house with the scene, because the house is huge. So decrease the size of the house, bring it up, and for some reason it's you know what, let me bring it back. Let's see, still it's not looking good, so I'll increase its size, bring it downward a little bit, and there it is, a perfect house. And another thing I forgot, another thing, let me just scale, and location is not, I won't bother with the location. So now let me go ahead and add another cube, and bring it forward, scale it down, that's for the chimney. Now and scale it down a little bit more, and align it properly with the building. Yeah, it's now good. Okay, then select this face and bring it all the way up to the area like that. Maybe even a little bit more, and then introduce a loop cut right around there. Select this face and it Alt E to extrude along the normals. This way you can E, Z. This is pretty good habit of that. I find it very useful by using Alt E. This actually helped me a lot while I am modeling something. And that's it. So that's the house with the chimney, and that's the land. I think I will have to increase the size of the land a little bit more. But you know what, let me see how the scene is actually interacting. Yeah, something like this, and this is the scene. So let me see how the scene is actually interacting with in cycles. And this is looking better already. So let's save the file. Now for the rest of the asset, what I will be needing is I've decided that I will make some grasses and trees, but before doing that I think I need to adjust some settings over here. Let me scale this up 5 times and because it was too small. And let me position my camera once again, and let me fix some of the areas, and let's see how the scene is actually interacting now. And yeah, that's good. Now I will select them and hit Ctrl A and apply the scale to them. So now that's no problem at all. So there's a house and the land is already done. Now for the grasses, I won't be bothering about modeling the grass and the trees. Instead, what I will be using is an add-on called Blender Kit. So that's pretty cool stuff. So let me just put my Blender Kit add-on at first. So I'll go to the edit and go to my preferences, and in this Blender preference you will see the second option on the add-ons is the Blender Kit online asset library. You just have to click in this little box and it will give you some welcome screen. Hit OK and you just close it. Now you see a lot of materials and other things is already loaded, and this is the option of the Blender Kit. You see, you can search, you can also upload if you want. In the Blender Kit add-on you can also upload some of your models, and you can also share with everyone. So the first thing that I will be doing is import some foliages of grass. So instead of materials, I will go to the models, find some models, and let me search for the grass and hit enter. It will take a little bit of a time, and here we go. You see, these are the locked ones. You can download them by just enter a subscription. But if you don't bother to if you want some free assets, or if you're doing some freelancing stuff, or just creating something for yourself for your own project, you can always go ahead and download all these free ones. Now this is actually good. I will be downloading this one. So just you have to click, and it will take a while to download the asset. You can see it's not still in the scene, it's still downloading. Once it's downloaded, you will get, yeah, it's downloaded already. You will see in the scene collection we have got this, and it's actually a collection, so you don't have to worry about anything else. All I have to do is just move it outside my scene, and here we go. We are already done. Okay, so now what I will be doing, I will go back to my solid view and select this portion, the top layer, and go to the weight paint. I want a little bit I want all the grasses not to be scattered everywhere, so I will go to the weight paint options. Now once you are in the weight paint option, you will see that you will have a new vertex group created. Wherever you click, you get this group. So I will do a little bit of a weight painting. I just want these grasses to be present only in these specific areas where I am clicking or where I'm painting this. Let me increase the size of the brush a little bit so that I can easily create the weight paint data. Red means, by the way, red means you are putting 100% weight on something. That means the red color denotes the maximum amount of the foliages where I want, and the blue color is actually 0% of the value. So blue color will be just it won't have any effect on these foliages. So I will leave this area because I want it to be a little bit of a path going along. And since this the camera is facing only the front view, so I won't be bothering much about giving the grass density on the backwards, because I know that if I am just doing all these huge grasses in the entire scene, it will be definitely an overkill. So I won't be bothering much about it. Since I am looking from this perspective, it's looking fine, and you see this group has been created. So I will lock this one, and then I will go back to the object mode and go to these particle settings. This one is for the particles, and click on this new plus button, add a particle system slot. Now a particle setting has been already implemented for this top layer. Now there are two options. One is the emitter, the other is the hair. For this grass clumps I will be using the hair, and you see these are the hairs. And the first thing that I will be doing is going down to this tab, render tab, and instead of path I will select a collection, since this one is a collection, and for the instance of the collection I will select this one. Now you see the moment I have installed it, you can see, let me go to the render view and let me change this one to GPU so that you can see the grasses are there, but it's too small, you cannot see it right now. Let me increase the scale to around 0.25, 25% of the scale. Now you see the grasses are all there, and you don't have to worry about the the texturing of the grasses, because these are already been textured. Let me just increase the scale a little bit, 0.4 seems to be good. Yeah, and scale randomness 0.75, 75% of the randomness. You can also increase the scale if you want, 0.5 will be good. And here you go, these are the grasses. You can also increase, let me just increase this one a little bit more. Okay, now things are starting to look interesting now, isn't it? But as you can see, it's distributed evenly all over the place, but I want that weight paint that I just did to be the guidelines for this foliages to be following the order. So I will go down to the vertex groups, and for the density I will select my created group, that's the vertex paint, and you see it does not have any grasses on this area. It only follows the area where I painted those things. The clumpness I will also add this group, and that's it, nothing else to be done. You can also select the group to be about length. The green one, the red one will have the 100% of the length, and the green one or the blue ones will have 0% of the length. And then I will go down to children, and instead of none I will select interpolated, so there will be even more grasses. And let me see how the scene is actually interacting by hitting a quick render of the scene. Let me go back to 64. I will just turn down the value of the render and hit F12 to render the scene out. It will take a while to render the scene, and you see it's quite interesting. It's looking quite interesting now. Yeah, so much for the beginner tutorial, isn't it? Okay, so I will now tweak a little bit even more. Instead of using thousand number of hairs, I will increase it to around 2000, and it will give even more density. And I will also increase the scale a little bit so that it does not look like the small amount. And I will hit render once again, and let me see, and here we go. It's looking quite nice already. A grassy meadow scene, and there is a little bit of a path. And that's quite fantastic, isn't it? Yep, it's looking already nice. So I will now, as you can see, my screen has started to lag because there are millions of instances actually following this order. So I will just hide this from my viewport, and I'm again back to this area now. Instead, and as my grasses has already been done, now I will search for another things, trees, and search Blender Kit for a good tree. And I think this one, a home tree, this is a free one. There are lots of stuff you can see. There are lots of stuff you can download and use it to integrate your scene. This one is looking nice, this one is also looking nice. You see, there are lots of things happening here, but I will be, as this is a simple scene, I will just download this one, and it will take a little bit to download. And here we go. I think, yeah, the home tree is over here. It's let me place it somewhere. Okay. Oops. And don't bother about this one. This will, just get out of the scene if you are not using. After a while, it will go out of your panels. Okay, let me see. It's in a solid view. I will increase the size a little bit, and I will also download some other tree. Or I can also duplicate this and place it somewhere like this. Why? Somewhere around here. Place it on top and maybe increase the size a little bit. And here we go. So that's the scene. Maybe I can also position it somewhere else. This one looks nice. Something like that. Yeah, and let me just give it a render once again. And since I've just hidden those grasses from the viewport, you will still be able to see through the render all these grasses and the trees. And this is looking quite nice. I think I need to increase the scale of this tree a little bit. Let me increase the scale for this one so that it looks a little bit realistic, and this one as well. And give another shot of the render. Oh wow, this is actually looking rather nice. Yeah, okay. Now as you can see, my trees and the foliages are already in place. Now what I'll do, I will just proceed with some manual modeling of the street lamps. I will put some lamps. You can also search for benches if you want, but I will do it myself, or maybe not. Yeah, I am a lazy guy. Let me search for a bench. I'm a lazy guy. And this one is looking nice. Yeah, it will take some time. You see, yeah, it's downloaded, and this is bench. It's already looking too small. I will put it somewhere. Oops. Put it somewhere around this area. And scale it down a little bit, rotate it a little bit, and place it somewhere like this. Okay, and don't worry about this uneven ground. I will be doing a little bit of a tweaking in the ground so that it sits perfectly. But since all these things are covered in foliages, so that isn't a big deal. So let me hit another render and see how it's working. You know, I love Blender Kit add-on because this saves you a lot of time, tons of time, and you have to just only worry about the main scene, or the main, main parts of your scene, and all these extras can be easily handled by Blender Kit add-on. You don't have to model everything. You don't have even to download something like external websites. Everything is done in Blender, and they handles this situation of modeling stuff and other things quite well. And here we go. We have created a good house, some trees and grass, and it's already looking rather nice. And now it's time to proceed even further and create some other assets as well. So now, before proceeding any further and making this scene more interesting, I need to tell you that I edited a couple of things in the scene. I duplicated the trees once again and placed it over there. As you can see, it's now looking much more realistic, or much better than it was before. And yeah, that's it. So these are the trees which will be placed, and now let's get back to the business. Now, another thing that I have noticed in the scene is I have got one particle settings. Let me just rename this as grass, because these are the grasses. Let me turn this on, and these are the grass settings, but there is something which is really empty in here. So I want these things, these leftover parts, to be pebbled or cobbled way, cobbled pavement or something like that. So yeah, let me just hide these trees at first, and create another particle settings, and let me rename these as pebbled way or path or something like that. And this will denote another particle settings which I will be creating a pebbled way, a pathway along these channels. So before going anywhere else, I will go back to my vertex group and create another group and rename this as the pebbles. And by the way, let me just also rename this as the grass, and these are the pebbles. And let me go back to my grass settings and turn this on. And it's now time to go back to let me see, yeah, the pebbles are selected, and let me put some weight paint data on it as well. So it's really gonna take a little bit, because it's starting to freeze the computer because of huge amount of geometry already present in the scene. So let me just paint this area. Okay, let me increase the radius of the brush a little bit, and yeah, like this. I'm not bothering about creating this one too perfect, because this is actually a scene where the camera is way far off, so I won't be bothering much about going into insane details. But anyway, I'm just actually going for a beautiful look with as little work as possible. So now, as this vertex paint data created, let me lock this one so that I won't be able to change this anymore. And let me go back to the object mode, and go back to my particle settings and use it as a hair. And again, once again, let me hide this one. Once again, you see the hairs are distributed all along this geometry. Now let me go to the density vertex groups and select the pebbles, and you see the hair strands are only now limited to the areas that I created. But I'm missing one thing, I'm missing a pebble. So what I will be doing, I will go ahead and create something like a pebble. So icosphere is a good one for a pebbled cobbles things. And let me just excuse me, let me just move it along in this area, and this is the icosphere. It's pretty less geometric shape, and I will scale it down on the z-axis a little bit, make it a little bit flattened, and go to the edit mode, hit G and Z, and place the point of origin a little bit downward. So that's the pebble stones. Let me rename it as pebble, and that's it. Now once I am going here in this particles settings, and the render shall be over, this time it will be an object, since the pebble is an object, 3D object, and for the instance object I will select the pebble, and voila, you see that the pebbles are distributed all along the way. Now one thing that I have noticed that it's weird, the rotation is actually not working properly. So if I rotate this one along with the y-axis, nothing's happening, because this particle settings, as you go down, you will see the instance object is only the scaling is actually been taken out, activated, means you can only scale the object, and these instances will actually have that effect on the scalings, but there is no such thing in the rotation. So I will enable rotation as well. Now when I'm rotating it, you see all these, let me just zoom in on a little bit. Once I'm rotating it, you see the pebbles are now rotating. So rotate it along the y-axis to about 90 degree, and that fixes everything. Yeah, and another thing, I have seen that these all pebbles are they are equal in size, and that's kind of a little bit artificial. So what I'll be doing, let me just scale it up a little bit. Instead of 0.05 I will go to 0.09, and maybe that's too much, 0.075, maybe 0.06, and yeah, that's good. And for the scale randomness, I will go all the way up to 1. So now you can see there are lots of variation in the scalings, and maybe I will crank it up a little bit, 0.09. Yep, pretty much it. And another thing, I will also, for the children, I will also enable the option of interpolate, and you see now these are much good looking than it was before. It's more densely distributed along the way. Now one thing, for the display amount, you can see it's 10 right now, but for the render it's set to the amount set to 100, so that will be pretty dense mesh. So let me see how it's looking when I'm cranking it up to around 25. That's all the way too much. Let me just crank it down to about 15, and yeah, that's good. And another thing, I also don't need 1000 number of particles. I will set it down to around 600, and maybe for this display mount I will go even down to around 7, maybe 11, and that's actually how much you like. And for the rendered amount I will also go to 11. So it it very well that this geometry won't increase once you're rendering it out. And in the as I've already done with the density, I'll also guide this pebbles vertex group for the length. So the maximum amount of length or the size is actually variables right now. So like this, you can also do like this in order to make it far more realistic, but I won't be bothering much about that. So yeah, that's the particles and that's the grass. So both of them are looking really nice, and I will hide it out from this viewport so that I will have full, you know, smoother interface. So let me just give it a quick render and let me see how the scene is actually looking with all the trees and the pebbles and the grass, and the render has been started. And you know what, it's looking good, but I have forgotten one thing. And again, let me just go back. I've forgotten to put some materials on it. So let me, for the quick review, let me just give it a real quick, you know, just a basic amount of just a basic color to that, so that I can render it and I can distinguish how it's now looking. It's gonna take a little bit while to render it out because there are so many geometries present here. And one thing that I've noticed, that although this one is now looking rather nice, but there are some holes which I don't like over here. There are some areas where the pebbles are not, you know, round. So I will just tweak it out a little bit. Now let me get down to the particle settings as well again, and yeah, now instead of, you know, going something like that, I can also increase the amount of display to around 20, and 20 for the render as well. Let me now hit the render and see. It's all about, you know, going back and forth and checking or double checking all these things, and really looking for any loopholes that you may have missed out. And there is still some places which are missing. You know what, I will do a little bit of, you know, changes in here as well. Let me increase the size to around 0.12 or maybe a little bit more, and make it something like that. And for the length, let me just put it something like that. Shit, I've got a bad cough, you know. Now let me see, and now it's starting to get a little bit interesting. As you can see, there are not that space left, and yeah, but still it's not looking good, you know. Let me go back to around scalings should be put around 0.09. Let me go back to my previous settings and let me just reduce the scale randomness a little bit, and maybe I can go back to 1000 number of iterations, so I know it's actually using more geometry than before. And you know what, it's now looking good. Okay, because I will be using some other colors to describe this area, so I won't be bothering much about it. Okay, so that's maybe a little bit less, 800. Okay, 800, and scale a little bit more, 0.1 is good. Yeah, scale randomness, make it something like that. Let's just hide this. You know what, let me just go to pebbles and clump as well as pebbles. Oh yeah, that's it. Okay, so let me hide this one, and these are the scenes. Okay, now it's time to just put a basic sky, and let's see how the entire scene is actually looking with all these iterations and other things. Now let me go to this this tab, shading tab, and go to the render view, and now I will be adding an Hdri Sky in order to imitate the the sky pattern. So we know it very well over here, because now it's a dumb sky with a white background, or I can go for any other background, but it won't help me achieve better render. So what I'll be doing, I'll go on this tab, and for the type of data I will go to the world, switch to the world map. Now it's the shader editor. Here you actually set all the parameters about the materials and other. You can add some textures, do some tweakings, and this is all the node setup. The work is based on the node setup, so that's it. Now the option is really simple. All just like you add something by hitting Shift A, over here also you add something by hitting Shift A, but instead of geometry you will get a lot of options over here. Input, there are lots of things, everything is important over here. But for the sky I will be using a texture, an HDRI texture that I have downloaded from HDRI Heaven. So the first thing that I will be using is add a texture, and go over here, and you will see a lot of textures present. Some of them are procedural, some of them are image textures. Now the one thing that I really want over here is an environment texture, because environment textures are 360-degree and they interact pretty well with the HDRI. And for the HDRI I will hit this open and go to my desktop. There it is, and Sky HDRI. I will select this one, that's a 4K map. Open this image. Still you cannot see anything because this has a connector between these two and it's not plugged in yet. It's just like a wire, and you just plug it in, and you see the moment you plug in, you see the HDRI image in function. And before that you can see that before this plugin everything was dull white, but once I put this HDRI you see a lot of variation colors present with this scene is actually interacting with the geometry. So now another thing that I'll be doing, it's a very important thing. It's an add-on called Node Wrangler. You can go to preference, add-ons, and search for node. You will see the Node Wrangler present over here. I've already enabled it. If you don't have it enabled, you just enable it, and once you have enabled, you can go and select some awesome shortcut using these nodes. So Control T will give us the texture coordinate of this mapping. So it's now generated, and there is you can now tweak the location, the rotation, and the scales. Now the only thing that I will be messing up with is the rotation, since I don't like the light coming from this way. I want the light more like coming from this back sideways and interact a shadow like shadow in the scene. So that's the Z. We know that Z coordinates is actually used for this kind of rotation, so I will rotate it until I get the desired light setup, and I will move it until yeah, something like that. Maybe that's maybe 116. But you can see that let me see. Okay, now I cannot see the light right now too much, is because the strength is too low. Now one thing, you can also increase the strength and the scene will be drastically well lit, but I don't like this kind of strength value. What I will be doing is I will just put it aside, hit Shift A and go to this converter and go to this math node. Now this is pretty much useful. Over here I can plug this color into the first value and mix it with an addition value, but right now I will be using a multiply value, so the color will be multiplied by this value and this one will be connected to this one. Now you see it's now total dark image, a very contrasted one, because I have multiplied it with 0.5. Now I will increase the multiply by around 5 and you get well lit contrasted image. Let me go to 2.5 and here it is, and but it's still very much contrasted. So what I will be doing, I will duplicate this multiply by hitting Shift D, place it over here and change this one to add, which will also give us more of the, you know, the normal lights and the other stuff, not so much contrasted. And I will plug this now into the strength value. The moment I did that, you see the changes. There are also well contrasted, you know, light, as well as the peak lights are also over there. So I will increase the amount to around, let me see, 1.5 and give it maybe 1.2 or maybe 1.8. Increase it a little bit and you see it's really looking rather nice. And this time I will be increasing this because I want the sunlight to be, you know, really bright. So 5 maybe, and yeah, it's now looking quite nice. Maybe I can fiddle with the position of the sunlight a little bit more, and here we go. Now another thing, it's quite yellowish toned you know, image. If you also want to add some highlights on this image, maybe make it a little bit bluish, you can also add some other image. So over here, but we instead of an image, I will go for a mix RGB color node and connect the image to the first color. As you can see, it's now totally white. It's like whitewashed because there's a mixture of the second color as well. Now the second color is white. Now once I, you know, change it to blue, you see there is a blue, like whitewash. It's a blue tint, but it's not looking that good, so I will go ahead and use multiply nodes to it. And you can play along with the factor. If you are going for more, you know, night look, you can always use this factor to change it, how much it is affecting your scene. But over here I will just use, you know, a little bit of a bluish tone as well as the yellow tone as well. And let me just increase the light structure a little bit, make it a little bit something like that, maybe. And let's go on to, yeah, that's good. So that's the sky. And another thing that I will be adding onto this scene is a sun lamp, because, you know, there must be a sun lamp over there. And let me bring the sun lamp to around this position. Sorry. Okay. Okay, over here, and let me rotate this, go to top view, rotate it like that, and I will crank the value of sun lamp to be around 10, make it a little bit yellowish, and let me see how it's now looking right now. Okay, it's now, maybe it's too much. Let's rotate and make the shadow like that. And let's make the shadow something like this, and I think that's, I also need to adjust a little bit of a position. Let me just put the value down to around 5. Okay, let me just do some more tweakings here and there. Okay, now let's increase the value a little bit more, and this one is looking rather nice. Yeah, so let me save the project. At first, go back to my layout view, and let's have a render, and let's see how the scene is actually interacting. But I will go for, before that I will go ahead and increase the sample a little bit, maybe 128, and for the image I will go for, where is it? Sometimes I fail to get where. Oh well, oh yeah, I will render a transparent background. So now let me start the rendering, and I am going to pause my video right now, and I will come back once it is rendered, because it's gonna take a little bit of a time. Whoa, would you look at that? It's looking rather nice. Yeah, and but one thing that I've noted, that maybe the power of the sun lamp is too high, and maybe I can tweak some other little areas, and there are minor things to be adjusted for the skylights, but other than that it's looking quite nice already. Yeah, it's looking quite nice. So by far we have done the majority of the things. Now only thing left is to texturize the building, and then this land, and then we are done. I am not bothering much about the background though right now, because as I've already mentioned, I will be doing the composition in Photoshop. So yeah, let's get started now. So the first thing that I will be doing is, over here I will just crank it down a little bit, and maybe put it a little bit of a reddish tone, and yeah, that's it. So now let's go ahead and start texturing the applying the materials to the house. So by selecting the house, Shift H will hide everything but leave the house unhidden. Now I won't be doing as I usually do a lot of texture painting in Substance Painter as well. So over here I won't be showing you that stuff because it's meant for the Blender. So here again I will take help from Blender Kit add-on, and before that I have to UV unwrap the whole thing. Now UV unwrapping is a quite tedious process, but thankfully as it is not that kind of a huge scene, so we can get away with the smart UV unwrap. So let me select everything as I've already selected. I think after hitting U, you will get the UV and mapping options, and I will go for Smart UV Project and click on OK. So now the entire piece has been UV unwrapped in 0 to 1 coordinates, and it's good. It's good for now. And let me get back to the layout. I think, yeah, this one is again disabled. Okay, so already it's UV unwrapped. So right now I will go ahead and create one base material. I will call it as the base MTL base material, because this one is actually pretty useful for before applying anything. Let me just assign this one. I will explain this a little bit, explain this very soon, but now for now let me turn this material preview mode. It's totally white because the base material is white. Now I will go over here and go to this materials tab and search for something like brick and hit enter, and there are lots of bricks present here, as you can see. Now for this scene I can use this brick. Yeah, it will be downloaded very soon, and yeah, here it is. And you can see it's already using these bricks for this building, but there is a little bit of a problem with this, with the arrangement. Or maybe if I'm going for this one, let me see what happens. No, this one is also not looking good, so I will be using this brick. Yeah, this one. Now it's not arranged properly, so what I'll be doing, let me create a new material at first, because probably my base MTL has been lost. And let me bring it up, and this brick material, brick wall, is to be ascribed. Now let me go to these. This one is not arranged properly, so I can do it by editing the UV maps and apply this material to that maps, but since that will be a little bit of lengthy workflow, so what I will do instead, I will select these faces like this. It's a little bit of a tedious process, I admit, yeah, but that's the easiest workflow that you can get with a minimum amount of technical knowledge. You just have to select them like this. You can also go ahead and hit C to enable the circle selection and just drag it along to select the faces that you want. And once you are done with it, you can just right click anywhere and it will just get back to the normal selection. I will also select these faces as well. Let me also select these faces, and over here this one, and this, and this similar thing. Now with the circle selection, I can select them easily. Just drag and right click, select these two faces, and we are done. Yeah, we are done. Now I will assign the brick material to these selected faces. So hit assign and hit Ctrl I to invert the selection, and go to the best BMTL and hit assign. So now, as you can see, only these portions are now affected. Now one thing that I've all forgotten, I will double check this area, and I've also forgotten to select these areas as well. And hit assign. Now it's still not, looking that good, because probably because these bricks are too small for the building right now. So to solve this one, I will go to the shadings tab. Let me get rid of the camera view and activate the material preview by holding down Z and then selecting this one. And now what I will be doing, change it to the object panel, and you see this is the brick material, the brick wall material node setup. So I will select any one of the image and hit Ctrl T to bring out the texture coordinate, select them and just move it aside a little bit. And since these are all seamless texture, I will just plug this vector to both this one, because these are all affected by, these will all be affected by this changes what I will be doing in this texture coordinate tab, and this one as well. Okay, it's time to scale it up, maybe 0.25 and 0.25 over here as well. And now it's looking a little bit better, but still 0.15, and let me have a look at the renders tab. And you know what, it's looking quite nice already. Okay, now another thing, I will also select go back to my layout and select this one by hitting L, so it will select everything. Now by hitting Alt and Shift, holding down, I can left click on any areas where the two faces are meeting, and this will just deselect this area, the entire face loop, and I will also unselect this one as well. Now for this window, what I will be doing, I will be unselecting them. Let me leave this on, because later on I will change this out. So assign, and here we go. Now for this railings and other stuff, I will be using another material called wood. So plus button will create a new slot, and let me search for wood. Let me see how many woods can I get. I think this one is looking good. Bamboo wood, old wood. I think old wood is good enough. Let me download this one real quick. We've got this old wood. So now where to implement this old wood is hit L and L all over the areas where you want this material or the old wood materials to be used. You just have to select them. Oops, I think this one shall be done like this. Then Control plus to select more areas like that, and select assign. Now for this material I will be making some changes as well. Oh, that's the old wood, yeah. And these are the images. So again, Control T for the texture coordinate panel, and simply I can just plug them. And for this scaling, let me just go for 0.15 and 0.15 and maybe a little bit more, 0.2, 0.2, and look at that. Yeah, it's looking better now. Now as you can see, there is a little bit of an issue with this area, so I will select this one and quickly go to this UV editing panel, and since this is the one which is actually creating the problem, so I will just rotate it along 90 degree, and this will solve my problem. Yes, it has solved it. And I can also select these areas. Let me see, materials preview. Yeah, I have got this area, it's 90 degree, and this area as well, rotate by 90 degree, sorry, over here, rotate 90 degree, and a little bit of a problem in this area as well, so rotate 90 degree. And can also, yeah, that's it. Okay, so now this wooden this wooden material will also be used. I can also use some other places as well, so I will go back to this area, and then I can select this entire face loop and hit Control plus to increase the selection, and then hit assign, and same thing around here, and hit assign. Same thing with the door, Control plus, and then hit assign, and over there as well, Control plus and hit assign. And a little bit of a tweaking is still needed for the UVs. This one is looking rather nice. I will select this. you know what, I leave it as it is right now, and yeah, that's it. Let me save the project real quick. And what else? There will be the chimney and the roof of these buildings. So I will create another slot and search for tiles. Roof. This one, wood roof, gray roof. Yep, this one is looking better. Gray roof, yeah. Oh, let me just delete this one. Select this one. Yeah, the gray roof. Oops. Old wood. Create a new slot. Add roof. And use this one. Yeah, the gray roof. Now I will go and select these faces, Control plus and Control plus to select each and every one of them, and just deselect the area which I don't like, and then hit assign, and you can see that it's not looking rather nice. So I need to increase the parameters over here as well. This is a roof, and I can increase the size if I'm going to 0.05 and 0.05 for this as well. Point 0.09 and 0.09. Okay, let me get back to the layout, and there is a little bit of an issue over here, but it's because of my idiotic work. I did a little bit of a like this stuff, so it's not actually working properly. So let me get to UV editing and hit U and Smart UV project, and let's see if it fixes. I think it has fixed a little bit. Go to shadings and let me just get to 1 and 1, and yeah, it has fixed, but it should be rotated on a different way. So rotate 90 degree, make it something like this. And yeah, it's okay now. So we're back to level, and the same thing will be done for these roofs as well. So plus C, and with the middle mouse selection I can deselect everything. Okay, same thing over here as well. Let me just assign this tile, and the same thing for this one. C, and yep, like that. Okay, hit assign. Now U, Smart UV, and this one as well. C, Smart UV, and let's go to the UV panel, rotate it by 90 degrees. Oops. Rotate it by 90 degrees, and here we go. Perfect. Now I will be not bothering with this, even what I can also create the same thing. Let's get on to this. Hit U, Smart UV, Unwrap, and assign this one to it. Let me assign this. Okay, U, Smart UV, Unwrap, and rotate by 90 degrees. I would just leave him as it is. Oh yeah, and I've also forgotten to use the old wood material to this as well. Okay, and now I will go to this chimney and create another layer. Create new chimney, and hit let's create something like that. Okay, and hit assign. Oh, hit assign. And for the base material, I will go back to this kind of color, and the roughness a little bit more, and thus the house has been made. And let me see I think I've forgotten to add this one as well. Wait just a minute. And base material, hit assign. Okay, so let me just render this out. Alt H to unhide everything, and let's see how the scene is interacting, how the house is looking, and how everything is working out. Well, the render is finished and the house is looking quite nice. Yeah, and the only thing is left for now is just to put some materials on this island, and we are done with Blender. And probably it's not gonna take too much time. So we are now going to let me just save this one real quick. And for some reason again Blender's just crashed on me, so I have to redo it again. I just put some materials on it and suddenly it just got crashed. So anyways, let's just concentrate on this area. First thing that I'll be needing is the UV editing, and toggle everything on. Let me see. Yeah, hit U and Smart UV Unwrap, and here we go. And the bottom layer, let me select the bottom layer as well, and hit U and Smart UV Unwrap. Here we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and download some more materials. So grass for this one, for the top layer, and stylized grass dry. Let me see what I can use. I think mud and grass will be good enough for this scene. Let's get down to yeah, it's looking rather nice, but let me just save this one again real quick. Some little bit of a tweaking is needed. So this is the area where I will have to increase the scale, maybe 5 over here and 5 over here as well. Maybe 10 and 10. Yeah, this one is looking better. Let's go to 10 as well over here. Save real quick. Now I'm not going to put up with Blender again crashing on me. And this one, for this one I will be using some rock texture. Let me search and let's see which one is good enough. This one is looking great. This one is also looking good. This one is also looking good. Dark and rock moss. You know what? I can go for the rock moss. Probably gonna take a little bit of more time, and here we go. Yeah, it's looking good. Save it out. Let's go to the shading panel and let's change a little bit of a parameters over here. Instead of 1, I'll go for 3 and 3 over here as well. Maybe even more, 10 and 10. And yeah, it's looking good. So save this one, get back to my layout, and here we go. Let's save this one once again and let's see how the scene is now looking before going to the final render. So finally the scene is rendered. It took a little bit of time because I rendered that in this one in 1000 samples, because this is going to be my final image and I will put this image to Photoshop and do the compositing there. So that's it for the Blender. I hope you guys liked the process, and we will meet now in Photoshop right away. Okay, so now we are in Photoshop and you see the image right here, the rendered image. And for the background I am using this image I've downloaded from Unsplash. It's a pretty good image for this kind of background. And now what I'll do, I'll just drag my rendered image onto this scene, to this background, and scale it according to the scene, the background. Put it down in the center and hit OK. So now what I will do, I will rename them as background, and this one shall be my model. And I will at first start adjusting this background and give it a little bit of a saturation and some sort of a color. So I'll go down to effect and use at first the levels and select on this little button, which will just enable editing on the layer that is directly underneath this layer. So for this scene it will be the background. So I will enhance a little bit of a highlights and also give it a little bit of a saturation or a contrast to the image, and a very subtle one, and I will hit OK. Now what I'll do, I'll Control G and put it under a group and rename them as background, so that my background is actually finished. Now it's time to edit the model a little bit. So the first effect, again for the model as well, I will go for the levels and select this little option and give it a little bit of a highlight and a little bit of a contrast as well. So going for a little bit of a color variations and contrasted image. So that's it. And the second effect I will use is a curve. Now for this curve also I will use enable this channel, and with this focus setting on this focus, I can now enable auto color correction over here. So I will hold down Alt and select on this auto, and this auto color correction options pops up. The first and now what I will be doing for this little image, the third one, in dark and light colors, and I will now try to match the shadows and the highlights according to the background of the image. So for the shadows I will select this little color, a little bit of a bluish black, and for the highlights I will select something like this, yellowish or orangish type of color. Maybe give it a little bit of a yellowish tone, and not that kind of saturation is needed, and hit on OK and hit OK as well over here. So save the new target color as defaults. No, I don't wanna. So this is my effect, but now it has turned out to be a little bit of a dull. So what I will do over here is I will go ahead and put some color dodge effect to this, or linear dodge is also good, but I will go for the color dodge. But the effect is too high, so I will turn down the opacity to be around 30 or maybe 35, a little bit of a more, and that's it. Maybe yeah, 32. Yeah. So this is my model. So I will click on these three. Sorry, I will click on these three options and hit Control G to put them in a group as well, and I will rename it as my model. And what I will do now is I will enhance some sort of a god rays over here. So a new layer, new empty layer, and with my pen tool selected, at first I will go ahead and select some colors from this background. I will select this color and start painting over the areas with my with my opacity and my flow a little bit higher. I will start painting on these areas. A very subtle effect, just to give it a little bit of a glow in all these areas. Maybe yeah, something like that. Getting a glimpse of a dreamy land type of image. Let me turn down the scale of my brush and make some sort of an adjustment like that. Let me also turn down the opacity to be about 50% and create something like that. Now the effect is too high, so what I will do is I will turn down the opacity of this of this paint layer as well. So I will turn down the opacity to be around 50 and set this to lighten the theme. I can also increase a little bit, something like that. And you know what, it's looking good so far. And also I will try to create some fog in here. So for the fog I will select this color, something like white, yeah, off white, and I will start just putting some smudges around all these areas. So I think I need to select this kind of color, yeah. So a very little effect, not too high, and start putting some puff in all these areas. Get a glimpse of a dreamy scene. And I will also turn down the opacity of this to be around 29 or 30. I think 30 is good. Okay, so now the scene is more or less completed. The next thing that I will do right now is to convert them into one single layer with all the layers enabled in one channel. So Control Alt Shift and E will create a duplicate image which will have all these layers and all these editings done merged to it. And now I will convert it into a smart object and then apply a smart filter for the camera raw filter. And I will tweak some little settings in here. The first thing is increase the exposure a little bit, and then increase the contrast a little bit as well, increase the shadow a little bit and the clarity, and give it a little bit of a warm temperature because bluish is not that kind of dreamy anymore. So like that. And then I will go to effects, give some amount of grain, and I will also give some sort of a vignette effect to this, something like that, and the midpoint and round, and give a little bit of a feather as well. and hit OK. So without this effect and with this effect, and you can see the difference of the image. So that's it for today. This ends the composition in Photoshop. I hope you like this creation of this fantasy land. I hope you enjoyed it. So if you want more contents like this, consider subscribing to my channel, and let me guess if I can get 100 likes for this video. If I will get more than 100 likes, then I will think that you guys loved it very much, and I will try to create some more interesting subject like this. So until the next time, I'm Sumit signing off. Peace.